Kia ora. In the headlines, the government is rejecting claims that changes to the student loan and allowance scheme will force graduates overseas. From next year, graduates will have to pay their loans off at 12% rather than 10%. The threshold for student allowances will be frozen at the current rate, and no one will be able to access an allowance after 4 years of study. Tertiary Education Minister Stephen Joyce is rejecting opposition predictions of a mass exodus of graduates after student loan and allowance changes are introduced next year.
The big impetus for people to stay in the country, of course, is they don't have interest added on the student loans. As you go overseas, the interest is added. And I think now that we're putting a lot harder effort into the area of recovering loans from people who have gone overseas, it's probably a little bit less of the leave and forget.
The Reserve Bank is introducing an open bank resolution framework aimed at helping New Zealand's financial systems withstand the effects of future financial shocks. Deputy Governor Grant Spencer says the policies are based on lessons from the global financial crisis. Among the measures are ways of protecting the financial system from bank failures without taxpayer-funded bailouts. There's yet another postponement for 8 Greenpeace activists who staged an anti-oil exploration protest in New Plymouth. The group, including actress Lucy Lawless, were charged with burglary after boarding the Noble Discoverer in Port Taranaki in February. The court has heard that agreement is being sought between police and the accused. The government has launched a new website as it continues with its partial state assets sales policy. State-owned Enterprises Minister Tony Ryle says the site governmentshareoffers.govt.nz will give details on how the program will work.
It's talking about what the companies are, it links you to their financial information, it talks about the government's mixed ownership program, and it explains what a share float is all about.
The Foreign Affairs Minister is questioning the professionalism of the staff members who leaked information to Labour. Phil Goff has released details from a leaked cabinet paper about proposed restructuring at MFAT. Minister Murray McCulley said he'd prefer that remained private, and also challenged Mr Goff's attack on morale at the ministry.
The member claims to be deeply concerned about staff morale within the ministry and about damage to New Zealand's foreign policy interests from this process. If he wishes to identify the persons responsible, then he just needs to find himself a mirror.
The leaked documents show that Cabinet will consider closing the Stockholm embassy next month, followed by the Netherlands and Spain. Defence expert Victoria University's Robert Asen says cutting the Stockholm embassy makes sense, as it was added in 2008 when MFAT had extra funds. Graham Henry is now officially a Sir. The coach became behind last year's Rugby World Cup victory has been knighted at an investiture ceremony in Wellington. Overseas, a blind Chinese activist who took refuge at America's Beijing embassy says he no longer feels safe in his country. The Chinese government promised Chen Guang-Cheng and his family would be safe and that he could continue his education. But having reunited with his family, Chen learned they were threatened and wants to leave the country. An anti-military protest has been attacked near the Defence Ministry in Cairo, sparking clashes which killed 20 people. In a bid to placate the demonstrators, the ruling Supreme Council of the Armed Forces said it was ready to hand over the power on May 24th if a candidate wins the first round of the election. It's World Press Freedom Day, and a recent report from the Committee to Protect Journalists proves that many countries don't have the luxury of unfettered press. This year's watch list includes Eritrea, North Korea, Syria, Iran, Equatorial Guinea, Uzbekistan, Burma, Cuba, Belarus and Saudi Arabia. Those are the headlines from the RBG News team. Ka kite anō.